Hey everybody, Sean here from Somm Wine Club, and I have got some wine for you. This is the Quinta São Gião Espumante Bruto 2020. This is a traditional method sparkling wine made from the grape variety Arinto from Vinho Verde in northern Portugal. As is tradition, I haven't opened the bottle yet. I'm going to open it on camera because that's what I do with sparkling wine. Give everyone a chance to see the proper technique for opening sparkling wine. But before I do that, let's talk about Quinta São Gião. So they are based in Guimarães, which is a region, a little municipality in the subregion of Ave in Vinho Verde. Vinho Verde is probably not the first place you think of when you think of sparkling wine. Even within Portugal, it is less common to do sparkling wine in Vinho Verde than it is to do dry white wines or even off-dry white wines with that little bit of spritz and a little bit of sweetness, lower alcohol. But they do make rosé, they make red, and they make sparkling wine. So it is a much more diverse region in terms of production than I think people give it credit for, because the perception of Vinho Verde over the last decades has been one of inexpensive, slightly fizzy, slightly sweet, simple white wine. But lots of producers like Quinta São Gião are trying to change that, and they're doing that with great wines that are kind of outside of the normal box of thinking for a lot of Vinho Verde. So this is made from Arinto, which is one of the grape varieties that is traditional in Vinho Verde. Again, a lot of people think that Vinho Verde has to be Alvarinho. Alvarinho is Portuguese for Alvarinho, which is another grape variety that's regularly used in Vinho Verde, but is much more common in the northern part, in Monsanto and Melgaço, which is right on the Spanish border across the river from Rías Baixas in Spain, which is where they use Alvarinho. So as you go further south in Vinho Verde, you get into varieties like Aveso, Ruero, Arinto, Espadero, and Pareiro for the reds. So there's, I think, something like 14 or 18 different varieties that are in use. I'm going to mess that up because I did not study the specific number of varieties that were available for usage in Vinho Verde before I started doing this video, but there are a lot, and a lot of them are unique Portuguese varieties that you don't see a lot of other places outside of Portugal. They are doing this in the traditional method. So this is second fermentation in bottle. It spends 21 months on the lees after fermentation so that you get that nice toasty, nutty brioche character. And this is a vintage. This is 2020, so it's all coming from that particular vintage, and you have those almost 2 years on the lees to absorb a lot of that, that nutty, toasty brioche character that I love in traditional method sparkling wines. So let's open this up and taste. Now, a lot of sparkling wines will have this little tab on them, and you can use that. There's nothing wrong with using the pull tab, but if the pull tab fails on you, then you're going to have to get your corkscrew out. And I always just start with the corkscrew because then I avoid the potential that the tab isn't going to work, and then I'll just look silly on camera. So I just go and I just cut basically right where that tab is or is going to be. And then once you've gone all the way around, you can go up and basically just use your knife to peel this whole thing as it looks like I am taking it apart here. There we go. And then it comes off. You have a little piece from the tab that was kind of stuck there, but a little cleaner than using the tab sometimes. Depends on your skills or how tired you are. And then you can put your corkscrew away because you're not going to put a corkscrew through the top of the mucilage cap. Then comes the important part. Thumb on top, like a live grenade. Once you pull that pin, your thumb doesn't come off here, because if you take your thumb off of here, the pressure inside the bottle could force the cork to just go flying off and hit your date in the face. So you keep your thumb on top there, so that way you can control the cork as it starts to release from the bottle. Grab the bottom of the bottle rather than the top of the bottle, because you have better control if you're holding it from both sides, and you can just gently twist back and forth. And once you start twisting, the pressure inside the bottle will start to push the cork out. So you can already see how little I had to do and how much the cork is pushed out of the bottle. And then from there, it's basically just gentle rocks back and forth until the pressure basically pushes the cork right out the top. Now this one was fairly peg-like rather than a mushroom. You get that kind of wider, and so some corks will be tighter than others. If it's really tight, get a napkin and keep that cage on there so that you can get more leverage to twist the bottle back and forth. But remember, once you've taken the little tab down, just keep your finger on top of there or keep a cloth over top so that you don't end up shooting the cork off into the distance. So traditional method sparkling wines being fermented in bottle means that there is more pressure per square inch in the bottle, so you end up with finer bubbles in traditional method than in tank method, which would be where they would do the fermentation in a large pressurized tank with yeast and sugar added to start that second fermentation. I'm doing this in a white wine glass because I want to be able to smell it, but if you want to serve this in a flute, there's absolutely no problem with that. You're just going to be able to smell less of the wine because it's an narrower opening. You won't be able to get your nose in as much. So right off the nose, this smells like method champenoise, traditional method, classic method sparkling wine. It's got that toasted bread, that roasted nutty character, being that this is a 2020 and is now almost, well, would be 4 years old because they would have harvested it in the fall. So 4 years old, and then started second fermentation in the spring probably, and aged for 2 years from there. So as wines like this age, they will develop more of that kind of caramelized, nutty, toasty character, which is some of my favorite characteristics in wine. I love that note of roasted hazelnut or roasted almond. It's almost like someone's baking fresh bread. You get that yeasty character coming through. But there is still fruit here. Lots of pomaceous, lots of apple, lots of green pear. Not a whole lot of citrus. It's definitely more towards tree fruit than it is to citrus fruit. And some of that comes from age. You see less citrus fruit as wines get a little bit older. Super fine bubbles, really quite soft, with a really lovely bruised citrus or bruised apple and pear, that slightly oxidative note coming from winemaking and coming from time on the lees. Is a wine that, with that little bit of nuttiness, gives the wine some more complexity to work with more complex dishes too. So there's lots of labeling terminology here. Vinho Espumante de Qualidade just is the general designation for sparkling quality sparkling wines. Bruto is just Portuguese for brut or dry, and what else was there? Oh, branco. Branco is white. So this is a Bruto Branco, a sparkling or a dry white Espumante sparkling wine. If you think about Vinho Verde in Portugal, your idea may be of a very dry, very warm climate. Portugal has this reputation of being a hot country, but this far north in Portugal, it's actually quite lush, quite green, quite verdant. That's why it's called Vinho Verde, because the landscape is so green. Rave is kind of in the center of the subregions and is a little bit further back away from the coast. So there's less influence of the ocean here. Hotter days and cooler nights, which allow lots of ripeness, but also lots and lots of acidity and freshness. So this wine has a ton of bright, intense, zesty character that is really giving a nice counterpoint and balance to that nutty, slightly oxidative fruit character that comes with age and time on the lees. It's December. I couldn't not give you guys bubbles. What am I expecting you to drink on New Year's Eve? And yes, I know, I will say it for myself, and I'll say it before anybody says to me in the comments. I know sparkling wines are not just for celebrations, but come on, it's December. If you're not going to open a bottle of sparkling wine over the holidays, I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna, and this can be it. So here you have your Quinta São Gião Espumante Bruto Branco sparkling wine. You can have this on like, hey, you don't want to cook because you just cooked Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, and like that week in between Christmas and New Year's, you just want to order fried chicken. Great, perfect. You have a wine for that. If you want to save this and open it up for a family dinner over the holidays, great. You have a fantastic wine that you can do with appetizers or snacky foods, or even take this wine right into your dinner because it has enough substance, enough complexity, and layers to actually work all the way through a meal. Or let that ball drop and pop a bottle of sparkling wine at midnight to ring in the new year. There is absolutely nothing wrong with celebrating with bubbles. They are celebratory. That's part of the reason why they have always been associated with that way. Just doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can drink them and the only situation that you can drink them. So I hope I'm not going to get yelled at in the comments for suggesting that people drink sparkling wine over the holidays, because I don't think that's a far-fetched idea anyway. Uh, Anyways, I hope that everybody enjoys the Quinta São Gião Espumante Bruto. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for being part of Somm Wine Club, and we will see everybody next time.